Creative writing, a way to express yourself through words. Though not everyone uses it, it is one of the ways to escape modern life that we all live in. However, for some writers, it is their chance to improve themselves, to show the publishers what they're made of by writing their stories, poetry, songs, and newspaper articles. I'm Hannah Jones, and this documentary is about creative writing and why some people like to use the freedom of playing God to their writing, and how even fewer are hoping to get their work published, becoming the next phenomenon. However, chances of that happening are easier said than done. These days, there's a 95% chance of getting rejected, and only 5% is editors asking for the rest of your work. Publishing houses, big or small, gets more than 5,000 submissions from unpublished writers a year. Being a creative writer myself, I can see how that can be true. I mean, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? You write, and you write, and you write, and you write. And then you grab and check it, and before you know it, you're off sending that important letter to the publisher, plus a few pages of your work, then Bob's your uncle, you're published. Yeah, good luck with that. Sometimes it's just not that easy. Not easy at all. Yet despite this, not everyone wants to be published just for themselves. Some may even send their work to competitions or magazines and just leave it at that. Jackie Byatt is one of them. She's a graduate from Chichester University, where she had been studying English literature with creative writing. And although she doesn't write for a living, she has a short story and 2 poems published, but that isn't the reason why she writes. And this is where we find out in this interview.
Well, I wasn't sure that I did really. I just knew that I liked writing. I kept journals and I wrote lots of things in them. Really enjoyed it. And then I decided to go to university as a mature student to do an English degree, and creative writing was part of the course. And in the first year I realised I loved it, and I changed courses to do English with creative writing. So it was really when my tutors gave me feedback and said, you know, this is really good stuff, and that's really rewarding when your tutors say, you know, they're pleased with your work and inspires you to write more, I think. I think I based most of my writing on personal experience. I was widowed, and I think that was one of the things that inspired me to write. I started writing my feelings down, and I based lots of my work on how I felt, my experience at the time. I would say 90% of my writing comes from personal experience and about people perhaps that I've met. So a lot of my characters are based on people that I know. One of them probably was my friend Pauline Rowson, who writes novels herself and has had lots of crime books published. She told me, you know, I should go to university, I should write, I had it in me, and I think she encouraged me all along the way, and probably, yes, she was one of the big inspirations. I'd say my lecturers probably were too. They all write themselves, obviously, and I was inspired by their work, and other poets mainly. I mean, anything from Shakespeare to Simon Armitage. I love so many different diverse types of poetry, and I love to read, so reading inspires you as well, I would say.
Trying to be creative with our work can be a very long progress, and if you're serious about selling your stories to the publishers, then be prepared for a prolonged road of solitude. Or do you? Luckily, like a lot of people, I'm not the only one, and some of us need that point direction of our progress to make our writing big, or just want to enjoy writing, of inventing and imagining tales by telling them to other people and making new friends. I'm going to be talking to femme writers who have been together for 5 years and are a small group that analyse and review each other's work, as their main goal is to help and support each other while providing information of writers' events.
I answered an advert that a friend had seen and passed on to me. When I phoned, the group was fully booked, but then somebody must have kept my number because they phoned me back a while later and I joined that way.
Well, I joined because I met Karen actually at the gym, and I was talking to Karen about writing, and I'd said that I wanted to put a book together, and she suggested that I could have help from this group. So she spoke to the members and I came along, and that's how I joined actually.
Well, like Penny, I was introduced to this group by a friend, and if you ask me what brings me to this group, I would say look around. We got a lovely bunch of writers here. I enjoy the company, I enjoy the help and the feedback they give me, and that's why I keep on coming.
I've just written a short story, and I find the punctuation, going back over it and punctuating everything afterwards and correcting. It's not the correcting, but it's mainly the punctuation.
Well, the best is making an idea work. If you have an idea and you've got to make it plausible. If you don't, you've lost your story. And that's the best thing. And it's the worst thing, because if you can't make it work, forget it, tear it up, throw it away.
For me, because I write novels, the best thing is making up the story. Really enjoy making up the story, playing God with people's lives, love it. The worst thing is actually finishing it. I hate, because I've made up these people and got to know them, hate letting them go. So I actually hate finishing, really do.
One of the members is Catherine King. Catherine King is a published author who writes popular fiction romance set in 19th century Yorkshire. Her stories are inspired by her own family history and the hometown she was born in. She has published 5 books under this name and has recently finished her 6th novel. The story will be released in December 2011 this year. Do you believe the saying, everyone has a story inside?
Yes, I do. I think everyone has a story to tell. An interesting story usually. Everyone has things that have happened to them which can make a story. Definitely, yes. I think I have to, looking at my recent work, when I've been writing the larger, longer novels as Catherine King, the second one that I wrote, I have to say, is my favourite. It's called Silk and Steel, and I think it's my biggest success because it was shortlisted for an award. It was shortlisted for the Romantic Novelist Association Romantic Novel of the Year award, and I was really delighted with that, and I think for that reason that I count that as my biggest success. In the beginning, years ago, that I was talking about earlier, yes, that was quite hard, but when it came to the second time around, after I'd been out and done a proper job and matured and I think was older and wiser, it actually wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be to get a publisher. I think because I'd done a lot of groundwork on what to write and getting an agent as well. So there are other things involved in it that made it easier to place, which I simply didn't have access to earlier on in my earlier career. Yeah. So certainly my longer novels were easier to sell than the shorter romances years ago.
Cool.
Just read.
Did you know each year an average of 30 novels are made into movies? Authors watch tensely as their stories are flitted through many hands of filmmakers. If they're lucky, these film adaptations do the original story justice. However, it is often the case that the book is always better than the movie and, by the end of the day, disappoint a lot of fans. Movies like The Golden Compass, (real name is actually Northern Lights by Philip Pullman, and The Seeker, The Darkest Rising by Susan Cooper, are 2 examples. So, it is all so simple. Not all of us want to be writers, but it's one of those impossible but not unattainable dreams that we dream to think about sometimes. And not just because J.K. Rowling and Stephen King were able to do it. None of us can be able to be like them in a day. So don't try. Why not give it a try and see what you can do? For now, happy writing!